Do you feel like you're being controlled by your feelings, or are you controlling your feelings? Feelings can be a blessing or a curse, and we're going to talk about it today on how to control your feelings. And I've got 5 simple steps that are so doable that you can start today. I'm Annette Reeder from thebiblicalnutritionist.com, and it's always my joy to serve you God's recipe for excellent health. And sometimes it's not about the weight that we carry, but the weight that's burdened on us that determines our health. And our feelings are a part of that weight that can be burdened on us, or our feelings can be a lightness that keeps us light on our feet. And the sooner we're able to identify them, identify what they're doing in our life, the sooner we can have a more healthier day, a more happier day. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm so happy that you joined me here today. Now, I got to tell you, feelings can be a blessing or a curse. And for many years in my life, they were just that. They were a curse. And so it interfered with my eating, it interfered with my beliefs, it interfered with my family relationships, my friends. And when all of that changed, which is why I'm here to share this with you today, when all of that changed, I became the happy wife, the happy mom. You know, I'm much lighter today than I was back then. I can see life differently. And it's a huge blessing. And my family definitely is very happy about the changes. And you know, as we teach in our coaching classes, if you haven't caught on to those coaching classes, be sure you're on our email list. And we do them about 4 times a year. We do group coaching. But I teach in that class, it's like when you have changed, when you've changed your thoughts, which I talked about in a previous video, when you've changed your feelings, you say, wait a minute, that's not me anymore. When a thought tries to come back and infiltrate your day, you're like, nope, that's not me anymore. When a food tries to tempt you, like, that's not me anymore. And these words are powerful because thoughts are powerful. Thoughts are so powerful. You know, a toddler learns accepted feelings and unaccepted feelings by the parents' reactions to their hugs and their outbursts. Okay? But sometimes us adults are still living as a toddler with our feelings. We have outbursts. It's like, well, where did that come from? Why are you acting like that? Feelings live on the front row of our lives, typically as unruly children clamoring for attention. And the way I see it is feelings are our beliefs in clothes. Yeah, when we act out, that's what people see. And it has to root down into what we really believe. And so we really need to look at that. So feelings are an emotional state or a reaction. They can be defined as an emotional or physical touch on perception. Feelings, as I said, put clothes on your beliefs. All right. Feelings can be an outburst or they can be a controlled smile. They can hurt and they can heal. So where do feelings start? Feelings are not the root or a reaction. Feelings cannot be mastered head-on and resisted or redirected willpower. You know, we can't do that within a moment's notice. Feelings actually start from a circumstance or a thought. So let's talk about what are some examples of feelings. Well, people who are mastered by their feelings, whether it's anger, fear, sexual attraction, desire for food, looking good, are typically people who in their heart of hearts believe that their feelings must be satisfied. I mean, we see this playing out in the movies all of the time. You know, the lead character has to satisfy his desires or her desires, and it leads to trouble. Well, that's the way life is. When we're trying to satisfy desires that are not healthy, we get into trouble, whether we recognize it right away or we later pay a price and have to recognize it later. People who choose to not change unhealthy feelings are enslaved to their feelings. And we read about this in John 8:34. Everyone who commits sin is a slave to sin. Anger, it can be a sin. You know, feelings of unhappiness is not technically a sin, but it's because you're thinking about thoughts that are not glorifying. So we have to go back and change our thinking and change our feelings. So that's what I'm trying to say. Feelings are not the source of the problem. Feelings are the symptoms of our thoughts. Yeah, feelings are the symptoms of our thoughts. Now, we discussed this a lot in our previous video on how to control your thoughts. So be sure and go back and catch that, because that is actually step 1 of a 90-day transformation that I'm laying out for you on podcast and on YouTube. Step 2 is to control our feelings. Step 1 is to control our thoughts, because the underlying issue of everything we think, say, and do is our thoughts. And that's where we always go first. So let me encourage you, go back and listen to that. So is there harm to feelings? Well, the power of harmful feelings when left unchecked can creep into other areas of our life. They change the overall tone of our life, the overall tone of our world. How we perceive what's going on in this world is controlled by your feelings, which is controlled by your thoughts. The feeling of fear during a pandemic or a riot can cause constrictions of the blood vessels, inflammation of the brain, which leads to headaches. It causes changes in the gut microbiome that leads to a malabsorption of nutrients. Feelings have power. Negative feelings can enslave and blind us. They can take over our ability to think or perceive. So how do we recognize feelings? Feelings of, I'm just angry. When we recognize anger, the first question needs to be, why? Why are you angry? What is the circumstance or thought behind this anger? With a child, we could say, Bobby, what's making you so angry today? Well, let Bobby explain his why. Why is he angry? But then help Bobby to discover that another person cannot make you angry. It's your choice to be angry. So how can we change our thoughts about that person or that circumstance so that we can not be angry? Because anger only hurts us. It doesn't hurt the other person. It hurts us. It's kind of like unforgiveness. We've talked about that as well. Unforgiveness hurts me if I'm being unforgiving. It doesn't hurt the other person. Now, I can cause it to hurt the other person, but we're not going into that. I choose not to, though. Okay, so when we teach our child how to change from anger to not being angry, we teach them a lifelong lesson that they can carry with them forever. As adults, the question might be, well, why do you feel that need for that extra piece of cake? And you're saying, Annette, I thought we were talking about anger. I'm like, no, because our feelings lead to emotional eating, which is going to be the next video. So be sure and keep watching. So the goal is to get to the thought of the feeling. Feelings respond. So we say, oh, I just need that extra piece of cake. Oh, I just want that extra piece of cake. Oh, I deserve that extra piece of cake. I worked hard. I should get that extra piece of cake. When you know your body cannot handle that much sugar, that much processed flour, that many calories, and it's a real negative to your bank account. I always teach in the Treasures of Healthy Living DVD series, I teach you how to manage your health bank account. Well, that cake is going to be a huge withdrawal. So I hope you've put a lot of nutrients in to cover that. Or you're going to be in a negative balance. Negative balances lead to cancer and all kinds of health problems. So you might want to think about that before you do it. When we give time to evaluate the thought behind the feeling, we can discover a problem. And this is the key. Cha-ching! This is the key that will put money into your bank account, that will put thinness on your body, that will put mental clarity in your mind, is when we are able to discover what is the thought behind that feeling. Feelings are not isolated. They are the result of a thought. So when we do this, we can solve overeating, we can solve binging, we can solve a lot of problems. So how can I manage my feelings better? Well, here are 5 steps to control your feelings. Number 1, identify it. When you see it in a child, it's like, why are you acting like that? Why are you having this outburst? Why are you angry? Why are you upset? We recognize it in a child, but do we recognize it in ourselves? Okay, so if something's not going right, you need to catch yourself. Wait a minute, why am I acting this way? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I upset? Why am I angry? I mean, this works both ways. Why am I happy? Okay, identify your feeling. Write it down, because when we write it down, we see it. It becomes more visual, and we can just identify it better when we write it down. And then I want you to question it. Is that feeling, is it a blessing or is it a curse? Is it beneficial to those around me or is it hurtful? Is this feeling going to help me do better, grow in the Lord, or am I going to be a stumbling rock? I know it's supposed to be stumbling block, but that makes no sense. I say stumbling rock because we stumble over rocks. Who would I be if I had different feelings structuring my life? That's huge. Like, that's worth $1,000 in coaching. Who would I be if I had different feelings structuring my life? Is this a feeling I should base a big decision on, with or without consulting the thoughts or beliefs behind it? So many times we make impulse purchases. Well, that's based on feeling, not thought. If you thought it through, you wouldn't have bought it, right? It's like, no, I'm going to get it right now before I think myself out of it. Yeah, because you would think yourself out of it because it's an impulse buy, and later you're either going to regret it or you're going to be happy. So number 1 is identify the feeling, write it down. And number 2 is question it. Number 3 is discover the source of the thought behind the feeling. And this is so huge. Were you hurt in years past and that's why you overeat? Is that why you emotional eat? Do you feel like you're unloved, so you eat? Or you feel like you're not worthy, so you eat? Do you feel like no one understands you, so you eat? Do you feel like life is difficult, so you go do something else, or you're angry all the time, or you just have this unsettledness in your heart? Why? Ask yourself why. What is the thought behind the feeling? Feelings are not on their own. They are based on thoughts and beliefs. So you got to ask yourself, what am I thinking? What am I believing? Okay, so maybe there were words that were spoken to you earlier in your life, maybe even as a child, if you want to go back that far. Are they really true? Are you worthless? No, you are worthy. You are worthy. If you're a child of God, if you're a Christian, that changes everything because you're now the royal priesthood. You now have an inheritance where you got the streets are of gold. I mean, seriously. So why are we acting like paupers, or why are we acting like, oh, woe is me, when our feelings should be, wow, of gratitude and hope and, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So good feelings, hope, awe, amusement, love, joy, happiness, encouragement. These feelings also go back to a decision when a thought built these feelings and you chose to accept it as truth. So we can either accept a statement, a thought, as truth, and it could be truth that harms us or truth that sets us free. It's a decision. Our feelings are a decision. Now, let's just think about this. Maybe those of you who are always in a good attitude have good feelings. Maybe your parents raised you. Maybe they reared you to be always trusting in the Lord. And so you have that as a foundation for your thought life, for your beliefs. And that carries over into your feelings because it will. Maybe you have friends that showed you how to care for your families. Maybe you have friends that showed you how to care for your body and how to have a healthy body, how to eat healthy. When I was in college, I had friends that taught me how to not eat healthy. So they can go either way. And so do you have feelings that say, I know I am worthy, so I enjoy hope? This is a choice. This is a thought that results in a feeling. Feelings come from thoughts or a belief. To control our feelings, we must be in charge of them. So step number 4 is determine to change the thought. Now, Dallas Willard, in his book, Renovation of the Heart, he says this, I'm going to read it to you. Those who let God be God, they get off the conveyor belt of emotion and desire when it first starts to move towards the buzzsaw of sin. I mean, we've all seen those movies from times past. They do not wait until it's moving so fast they cannot get off of it. Their aim is to avoid sin, not to avoid the temptation of sin, the inclination of sin. They plan their path accordingly. So they don't put themselves, people who have the feelings that I want to truly serve the Lord, don't put themselves in a situation where they're going to have to think about if they want to commit sin or not. No, they stay away from any temptation of sin. Not just, if I go here, I'll just try to be good and not sin. No, I'm not going to go there. And in our thoughts, it's the same way. I'm not going to think that way because it leads me into thinking having the wrong feelings. So that's how we start to determine to change the thought. Scripture says we are to put off the old self. Well, this includes our feelings that are harmful to fulfilling our mission as a wife, as a mom, as a caretaker, as a grandma, maybe for you as a husband or a father, as a grandfather. We need to put off the old self. That means wrong feelings. So if there's a feeling that you've written down and you've answered the question, you're like, yeah, Annette, this is kind of causing harm in my body, harm in my relationships, then identify it. You answered the questions, now we change it. We go back to the thought. What's the underlying thought driving that feeling? And we change the thought. Because if you grew up hearing the words, you're useless, you'll never amount to anything. And if you actually believed those words, the words weren't true. There's many people who can attest to that and are a glowing example of that. But if you accepted it as truth, then you have to go back and change. It's like, no, everyone in this entire world, because we have so many people who watch from over in Europe and Asia and Australia and India. We have so many people who watch this video series. You need to understand, you were created in the image of Christ. It's a choice if you want to choose to follow him. It's a choice what you choose to believe, and then it's a choice what kind of feelings we're going to have. The old self includes wrong feeling. Put on the new self means we process our feelings, we write them down, we question them, we discover the source, we determine to change, and we change the thought. All right? Emotional eating is eating by feelings. And that's so important for everyone to identify. In our 40-day transformation, physically and spiritually, that course, many people for the first time in their life are being set free from emotional eating when they identify their feelings, when they identify their thoughts, when they identify their beliefs, and why they are celebrating bad food days with food, why you're celebrating bad days with food, because it's an emotional eating, it's a feeling that is planted in a wrong thought. A thought that doesn't identify you, who you really are. These people who have been through the course, they learned how to transform these feelings and thoughts to be such a catapult for great health. Amazing, just launching pad for great health. So the quicker the feelings and thoughts are identified and changed to be life transforming, the quicker the weight loss. The quicker the pain goes away. The quicker we see God work mightily in all areas of our life. But we must determine in our mind that we are finished with emotional eating. We are finished with being angry. It doesn't change the circumstances as to what made you angry or what made you happy. It just changes what you were created to change, which is your reaction to the circumstance. So many times we want to change the circumstance before I can be happy. No, you change your mind first to be happy. Circumstances don't always work out like we want, but we can control how we feel about them, how we respond to them. Okay, number 5, grow your self-control muscle. That's not me anymore. Remember I told you when something kind of starts to creep in, it's like, no, I've already dealt with that. You say, that's not me anymore. Just put a little wrist band that says, that's not me anymore. Those words don't describe me anymore. I am worthy. I am loved. I am blessed. I am a child of God. I have an inheritance. I'm a royal priesthood. All right? No. Okay, so be sure to stay tuned to the Self-Control podcast. It's coming up right away, and the Self-Control video, which I'll put a link to right up there. All right, so let's see where we are. Self-control is a steady capacity to direct yourself to accomplish what you have chosen or decided to do and be, even though you don't feel like it. That's self-control. Self-control is one of the greatest attributes you can gain as a Christian, or even just any person. So let's look at this. Feelings are essential to life. We must accept this and work at it. Always go back to the thoughts that created the feelings and then change the thought. Without going to the root, which is the thought, the feeling will always be a battle. Healthy feelings, properly ordered, are essential to a good life. So if you believed you are formed in the Christ likeness, then it's imperative that we must take care of our feelings. If you're ready for amazing health, then we must deal with our feelings. Love, joy, peace. They're our portion in life when our life is centered on Christ. They are feelings that can lead us to better days and a radiant face. All right? Many Pharisees had their hearts turned to stone. Well, guess what? That didn't start with their hearts turning to stone. It started with a thought, followed with their feelings, and then they just turned their heart. Okay, let me quickly give you some verses. Here are some verses to remind us how our feelings determine our days. Now, these are all in Psalm 12:25, anxiety in the heart of man weighs it down. Psalm 15:15, a cheerful heart has a continual feast. Psalm 17:22, a joyful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit dries up the bones. We've seen that. Psalm 21:17, he who loves pleasure will become a poor man. He who loves oil will not be rich. 29:25, the fear of man brings a snare, but he who trusts in the Lord will be exalted. Remember, feelings are good servants, but they are disastrous masters. Annette Reeder, the Biblical Nutritionist. Thanks for watching. Be sure and subscribe and leave your comments. I want to hear what you think about this video. Thanks for watching.